What's crackalacking, guys and girls? Hopefully everyone's doing alright. I know I am. It's Q&A video day today. Now, I've taken the liberty of going through every single question which I'm asked in relation to anything Bafang related and Dengfu related, and I've got it all right here for me to go through all of these questions and give you as best answers I can do. So yeah, I'm going to go through some of the questions. Hopefully this video will be useful, and if it is, as I always say, smash that like button, comment down below of course if you have any further questions, because who knows, I might be able to do another video like this in the not too distant future. In addition, huge shout out to everyone who has asked me these questions. I remember going on to Facebook, Instagram and usual social media platforms which I usually go on, and saying that I'm going to do a Q&A video. Never done one of these before, but a lot of people had further questions, and of course some of these questions made it into the list. So first things first, let's go through the first question, and the first question which I can see here is the question which I get asked so often: E10 versus E22, which one is better? Now, there's a good possibility that a lot of you who are following me and subscribe to the channel are waiting for that video. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you, I don't feel that a video is going to be sufficient for me to really answer the question. Like, it's good for visual representation, of course, but I've never thought that a video could really do it. So like, I know that a written article will probably go into a lot more detail, going through the finer details between both platforms. The E10 and the E22, as I previously said, they are different, so it would be somewhat inappropriate for me to do a generalization between the two. I mean, like, I'm looking at my E10 right now. I've recently upgraded that, so it's rocking a RockShot Zeb Select fork in a 29 configuration, 44mm offset, 170mm. So essentially my E10 V1, that's rocking 163.5mm of travel out back, 170 up front, and of course it's still rocking a 2-degree angle headset, and it is also rocking that DZ41 display, and it's now rolling on 29-inch wheels. The bike feels a lot different than what it used to run like with 27.5-inch wheels with a 180mm fork up front. My positioning is fine, it's not changed, it feels the same, but you know, the applications as to what the bike can now really do, like, it's, I don't want to say like, you know, it's an Enduro EMTB, but I'll gladly say, like, you know, the numbers aren't far off, ladies and gentlemen, of it. So I'll gladly say, like, you know, the E10, it's scoring points in this configuration for me even more so than what it used to in its free ride configuration. And as for the E22, well, I'm gonna be real, I've said it before on a lot of social media platforms, that is probably the best M620 EMTB frame I've ever swung a leg over. Like, the possibilities you can do with that bike are endless, and you know, even more so, like, you know, it's rocking components which none of my M620s have even ran, like that 104 BCD adapter, the Eggrider V2. There's plenty of things in which has made that bike proper decent, so I'm impressed with both of them, but they both excel in different areas. And I think I've said it before, you know, they're two bikes designed to do near enough the same, but the method as to how they execute it differs. So keep a watchful eye, I will make that video. So yeah, keep a watchful eye, I will make that video, but more importantly, I'll be doing a written extract which will go into finer detail between the two. So apologies if that's not the answer you want, but don't worry, I haven't forgotten, and like I said, I've got the two bikes, they ain't going anywhere. So yeah, that's that question. Next question: have you reprogrammed the motor, and if so, what settings are you running? So this, I'm assuming, is going to be referring to the E22 and the M620, because the E10, it's running CAN bus, so it's more firmware driven as opposed to software driven. But yes, I have reprogrammed the M620. All of my M620 EMTB, some you haven't even seen, are a lot different. They're all different. The motors respond in conjunction with the applications as to what the bike is. So, you know, referencing the blade, which is a hardtail, the motor responds more towards speed, it caters towards speed. The Saviour, the first M620 EMTB I featured on the channel, blue bike, that's just a trail bike, so it caters more for like low-end grunts, which just gets you up the hill and just kind of like pole vaults you as and when you need it. It just prioritizes in terms of power. The Freedom, it's a 29er. It's somewhat similar to the E22 because I don't run all of my M620s at 30 amps. Some of them I'll run at 20, and of course the Freedom was the first one I experimented with that on, with the 29-inch wheels. And then of course you got the Tsunami, which, is kind of my own like secret sauce kind of recipe, which I took cues from that, and then of course that's how I was able to fine tune the E22, or the arcade as I call it. And then of course the arcade, that really took it one step further, because like, you know, I prioritize gearing more so on that bike than any of my M620s that I have. So again, the programming as to what I've done regarding the M620 on the E22, I'll share it. That's not a problem. That's not to say that that program will work specifically for you, because I've got it to cater for the gearing, the fact that I'm rolling on 29-inch wheels. You know, I'm not pulling 30 amps giving me force equivalent to 160 newton-meters of torque. You know, it's 20 amps and it's giving me a force equivalent to 120. So you understand, like, you know, it may not be favorable for some people to run it, because I appreciate that there's some people who just want the unbridled power of the M620, but my programming matches what I wanted out of the E22. But yes, to answer the question, I do reprogram the M620. How I program them is because it's UART, it's just a programming cable. The Eggrider V2 can obviously do the same thing. In fact, one could argue it's a lot more easier to do on the Eggrider V2 displays, and the app I should mention as well. But at the same time, like, you know, there's different ways you can do it. Programming cable, Eggrider V2, you know, there's no right or wrong way, but the M620, the UART ones, they are programmable, hence why I'm able to get away with running it in a legal configuration. The canvas ones are a bit more tricky, which I knew they would be. Like, there's ways in which you can go around it, but it ain't easy, I'll say that much. So yeah, answer the question. It is programmable, and I'll share my programming, my stats as to how I'm running the E22. All right, next question. Where can you buy the Dengfu frames? All right, I get asked this question a lot as well. So there's a couple of places. So for me in the UK, I got my Dengfu frames, both the E10 and the E22, from Carbon Cycles. Now, Carbon Cycles are one of many distributors for the Dengfu line of electric mountain bikes. Technically speaking, they sell Carbon Cycles, they sell other EMTBs other than the Dengfu stuff. And of course they do sell the Dengfu stuff and some stuff which you guys may not have even known about. There's discussions as to one particular frame in which they do have, which they have been very keen for me to have, but because the motor, it's not a motor which I've been familiar with. Well, I'm familiar with it, obviously I know about it, but it's not a motor which I've had much dealings with, and so before I kind of fully commit, I need to make sure that I've got avenues so that if something were to go wrong, can I get it rectified? Because that's the whole reason why I went with Bafang, because from my experiences, like, I've been able to kind of fix whatever Bafang motor I've ever had any problems with. But Carbon Cycles, going back to what I was saying, is one distributor. Originally my intention was to go through GBK, Green Bike Kits. I remember, this is going back last year, they did tell me that their intention was to sell the Dengfu line of electric mountain bikes, but I know that I had some delays, and so that's why I opted to go with Carbon Cycles instead. Huge shout out to Carbon Cycles. I do appreciate their efforts in relation to what they've done, as well as the discounts as to what I was able to get the frames for. But there's GDK. I think currently you can actually put pre-orders on the frames, because I know they sold a lot more than what they initially anticipated. There's Tossle Bikes. There's Victory. A lot of you may have heard of Victory, to be fair, actually, but I know that Victory did reach out to me recently, and they even said, like, you know, there's stuff which we have which you might be interested in, and so, you know, I'll probably take them up on their offer. Victory, if you find this video, yeah, I'll be in touch with you, believe me, because I was looking through your catalogue and there was some stuff which even I was thinking, I wouldn't mind messing around with that. So yeah, but there's Victory. Of course, if you want to get like pre-built EMTBs which use the Dengfu frames, subject to where you live, you know, there's Lunar Cycles. They sell the E09, E10 and the E22, which is essentially their Lunar X1, X2 and Z1. I think that's what they're called. I do apologise if I've got it wrong, but I think that's what they're called. You've also got Wattwagon, who do the Hydra. And I think they've even done another one as well featuring the M600. I just can't remember what it's called, but I'll leave it on the screen as to what it is anyway. But there's quite a few distributors who sell pre-built electric mountain bikes which use those frames. It's only when they go to a distributor then they put it under the umbrella as to what they are. So, you know, Wattwagon, Luna, Tosser bikes. There's quite a few, but you get the point. Actually, they are essentially Dengfu frames. There's a couple. I'll leave them in the description. A link in the description to the places which I know sell the Dengfu EMTBs, as well as avenues for you to make contact with them as well, just in case if any of you are interested. So yeah, there are places. Like it's not a case in which you're going to be hunting on Google for long. Believe me, like you can get these frames. So I'll do my utmost in order to spread the word as much as possible. All right, next question. Right, so this one's a bit of a mouthful, but a good friend of mine asked me this question. But strangely enough, actually, there were other people who asked me similar questions as well. It goes: mudguards and their displays and their benefits, gearing ratio, and the pros and cons going to 11 to 12 speed. You know what? I'll leave it on the screen as to what the question is actually, because it is quite long actually. But we'll go through these questions actually, and huge shout out to my friend who actually kind of just phrased it this way anyway, because essentially what he's talking about is accessories as to how to build up either the E22 or the E10. I've said this on the E22 frame thread in relation to gearing. There is no right or wrong approach to building up these frames, because essentially, going back to what I was saying about the E10, you know, these things can be whatever you want them to be. You know, you want them as a trail bike, you can build them up as a trail bike. You want them up as an all mountain bike, as an enduro EMTB, as a free ride, as a fun bike, what have you. Like, you can literally build these bikes up. They don't really adhere to a particular application. You can kind of get them to favor one versus the other. I mean, I'm looking at my E10 as it is. I'll probably will end up calling it an enduro EMTB, but like, what I need to do is I need to session it properly, just so to make sure that everything on it works perfectly and I can get things done consistently. But going back to the accessories, there is no right or wrong approach. You know, if you want to put a 10-speed drivetrain on there, which I know a couple of people have on EMTB forums regarding either the E10 or the E22, you can do that. You want to go 12-speed, which is what I've done, you can do that. You know, the only thing I would gladly say is brakes. You definitely want to go 4-part. Like, I've seen a couple of people who've gone like dual, but you want to go quad piston on these bikes actually. Any e-bike which is weighing more than 20 kilos, don't mess about. Go quad piston front and rear with 203 mil rotors. One of the things he said is mudguards. I'm quite partial to Mudguard XL. You'd think I'd be more partial to Mudhugger because technically they're based in my neck of the woods, but you know, Mudguard is what I've been using for a while. I have ran Mudhugger, sorry. They're great. A lot of the bikes in which I used to run, which I've sold, I've literally sold the mudguards with them actually, and they do hold up pretty well, but so do the mudguards as well. What else has he said? And as for washing the bike and ingress issues, right, so I did say in relation to my E10 video that the E10 V1s are notorious for having a little bit of water ingress issues. It is what it is. You know, my V2 frame, it's early days for that, but so far my V2 E10 is starting to be a little bit more favorable. But this bike in particular, like, it's still fine. Like, you know, like, I'd say the only times in which I proper get water ingress issues, and like, you know, it's probably like my own fault really, but like, let's say for argument's sake, like I slashed the rear tire, because like, you know, depending on what rear tire I'm running, actually, like, you know, some materials are going to be more susceptible and prone to damage. Like, you know, I was running the High Roller 2 back when it was running on 27.5, and yeah, okay, it's my own stupid fault. I should have put something a little bit more heavy duty on there. But if I've had to take the back wheel off to put a tube in there, you know, rather than for me to kind of suspend the bike in one hand and then take the wheel off, I'll usually put the bike upside down and then just take the axle out and then take the wheel off that way. If it's a rainy, muddy day, what will usually happen is that water will probably seep into the bike, and it's usually when I flip the bike back over, that's when I'll probably have a little bit of water ingress issues where, like, you know, the bike's not operating correctly. So, you know, maybe one shouldn't really do that, but it's just something which I've just done for ages, and so for me it's noticeable because this is the first platform where I've never experienced that, but I've experienced it now. I'm still doing it, don't get me wrong, so it's just something in which I've just had to take on board. But overall, like, you know, you can wash these bikes, like, you know, like, I don't use pressure washers per se, but, you know, these things can get wet. You know, don't believe the hype. I know I said about water ingress issues, but water ingress issues, that's one thing. Getting the bikes wet, as if to say, like, you can't ride them in the UK. You can. It's just something you have to bear in mind. Like, you're not going to get electrocuted, believe me. And as for the E22, I'm gonna be real. That bike is unfazed by water ingress issues. Like, I've not come across anyone who's ever turned around to me and said that E22 is suffering with water ingress issues. So I think that says a lot. But other aspects, you know, honestly, it depends on how you want to build the bike up. Actually, like, you know, I'm not going to say that one particular wheel set is more favourable to one versus the other. Like, you know, both can run 29s, both can run 27.5, both can run mullets. I know the chainstay length of 455 to 458 might seem like, you know, they're not really designed for mullets, but you can get them to run as mullets. And, you know, the geometry could be tweaked. Whether or not you're asking me whether or not it's beneficial to run the 2-degree angle headset, I do, but I've seen a lot of people out there who run the E10s and E22s without them, so completely up to you, really. I'll be honest with you, I'm still going to be running them. And everything else is just personal preference, really. You know, I've got my personal preferences for dropper seat posts, personal preferences regarding handlebars, grips, pedals, even pedals. I'm a flat pedal guy. That's more or less it, really. It is what it is. You just build them up as you can do and just reap the benefits of. To be honest with you, like, I don't really want to start going down the avenue of, oh, you must do this, you must do that, because, you know, I don't want people to think that automatically you have to spend more money on these things than what you need to. Granted, the outlet will exceed what you're paying, because, you know, I'll be the advocate to say that, but they're pretty easy going to live with, you know, as soon as you become acclimated to the platform and understand its nuances. But overall, if you're familiar with electric mountain bikes, this, or the E10 and the E22, it's not a case in where there's further things you have to watch out for. Like, you know, one e-bike system can be more fallible to water ingress than the other, but it's just something to watch out for. Which motors will fit in an E10? Apologies. I would have thought people would have kind of known the answer to that, but essentially the E10s at the time of me making this video are compatible with either the M500, the M600 or the M510. The mounting position between all three of those motors are the exact same. There's discrepancies in relation to the bash guard, I'll gladly say that, but in terms of the motors mounting into the frame, they are the same. So if you've got a Dengfu E10 or a Dengfu E09, or there's a couple of other Bafang frames which use those Bafang motors, like I think it's called the E14, which is like their new hardtail, E14 or E15, one of the two. You can take your pick really as to which motor you want to use, because they're all designed to fit into the same mounting bracket area. Cable routing will obviously vary between what frame you install it on, but how you mount the motors into the frames, it's the exact same. So, you know, don't feel that, you know, you have to, if your bike comes, say, with an M500 and you can't get an M500, but you can get an M510, lights at the end of the tunnel, you can get an M510. And if your bike comes with an M600, but you recognize that the M600 is illegal, but you want your bike to be legalized, if you don't have the best tool, get an M500, you'll be all right. Get an M510, you'll be fine as well. Next question. Oh, this is a good one. Are you satisfied, or how satisfied are you regarding the DZ41 display? I'm going to be cutthroat honest with you, and I think I even said it in the video. My main issue with the stock display is that I couldn't run it further outboard. You know, like, I would tolerate if I broke it and I just get a new one. I would tolerate that if I could actually use the damn thing properly. But as soon as the DZ41 was released, and like I seen images of the cable length, I thought to myself straight away, I was like, that's it right there. That's what I need. That's what I need. I don't care about everyone saying, oh, I want a sleek, elegant looking display. I was thinking to myself, give me something which I could use. Give me functionality versus a gimmick which, you know, isn't really going to be favorable one way or another, especially if you're going to talk about like durability and longevity. The DZ41, I ain't gonna lie, that thing is tough as hell. Like, you just heard me saying about, like, you know, me turning the bike upside down in case like I have to do like rear wheel maintenance. So I ain't gonna lie, like when I turn the bike upside down, there's a possibility, like, you know, I'm probably pressing the display against something like a rock or the ground or something along those lines. The display probably looks a little bit scratched in a couple of places, but I guarantee you that thing still works. And it's not giving me any, it's not, in fact, being fair, ever since that display came on the bike, actually, like, a lot of issues have kind of gone, really. I don't want to jinx it, but yeah, it's funny. A £30 plus postage display has seriously improved that rig. So do with that information as you will, ladies and gentlemen. For me, yeah, it was a well worth it investment, and you know what, for the price, I don't even think of it as an investment, actually. I just think of it as, you know what, it's flipping necessary, and I would buy another one. So yeah, definitely impressed. For those of you who haven't seen the DZ41 video, I'll leave a card somewhere on the right hand side of the screen for you to go check out. But yeah, I'm impressed. And it will be the stock display I'll be running on the E10s, unless something weird and wonderful comes out. But point being is, for £30, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, that's a bargain for a display. Come on, people, you know that's a bargain. All right, next question. If one is switching to if one is switching to an E22 coming from a mainstream brand, for example Trek, Norco, Giant, etc., can one expect to have the same type of ruggedness and shreddiness, or basically, to put it in a simpler term, would this survive a Sam Pilgrim video? Okay, so all right, let's go backwards from that question. All right, first things first, these bikes, the E10 or the E22, could they survive a Sam Pilgrim video? That's a hypothetical question. You know, I've never met Sam Pilgrim, but I know for a fact he's sponsored by High Bike, so the chances that he would be riding one of these bikes is slim. Look, there's been riders who have ridden these bikes more aggressively than myself, and believe me, like, it's unfortunate that I don't have GoPro footage of this, actually, but like I would not mislead any of you. Like, these bikes can survive. They can take a beating, you know, ignoring the fact that they're carbon, because I know a lot of people get timid in relation to if carbon is a fragile material. Believe me, these bikes can take a beating, and, you know, I'm not giving them preferential treatment over the over, like, say my Levo or my Canevo. Like, literally, they get used, so it's fine. And as for the comment in relation to if someone's coming from a brand such as Norco or Giant or Trek or Specialized or any other type of brand, you're gonna start hearing about this more often, ladies and gentlemen. I ain't gonna lie, actually, but there's they're starting to get whistleblowers as to some of these manufacturing facilities which these manufacturers are all sharing. Some of you may even know this, to be fair, actually. Yes, it's coming, it's Dengfu, so it's Chinese, it's from the Far East, but it doesn't mean that it's made in a different way as to other brands which lately get their frames from the Far East and all. You know, it is quite durable. I think ultimately the telltale thing one needs to take away from this question is, as long as you build them up correctly, like that's something in which I want people to take away with them. Build them up correctly, they will be fine. Like, if you build them up and you bodge things and you encounter problems, yeah, I'll say it, you've only got yourself to blame. I'm sorry if that comes a bit arrogant, but it's the God's honest truth. The Dengfu stuff is not the first electric bikes I've built up. There's been, like, what are the Dengfu bikes now? They've made like 10 or 11. Like, there was 10 bikes I built before that, all of them with dedicated mid-drive motors. So this ain't nothing new to me. Like, I'd say, if anything, the tools I've invested into in order to ensure that I build these bikes up, that's probably saying more so than the bikes I've even got. So that if I have to, I can strip these bikes down rebuild them, re-grease them, reservice anything, get parts I need, and then put them all back together. I mean, these bikes are fine. And again, you know, like, I've not, put it this way, not once have I said in my content, oh, I'm developing a creaking sound, or oh, the rear wheel feels wandery at times where nothing feels stiff or anything along those lines. It's essentially a case where you just need to build them up. Think of it no different than you walk into your local dealer and then you buy a shop bought bike or electric mounted bike. You know for a fact that the mechanic, a certified mechanic, has ensured that that bike is suitable for it to walk out of the shop and work in accordance with how that bike was meant to be ridden. It's the same thing regarding how I build my electric mountain bikes up. So, all right, next question. Can you use a 180mm travel fork on the E10? Yeah. Okay, so I've ran one. The reason why I went with a 180mm travel fork is because it was lying around, it was spare. But having said that though, I mean, like, you know, I'm running my E10, which I'm looking at now. That's a 170 29er. A 180 29er, I'll be real, that's a bit overkill for me. Like, you know, straight away, like, I'm thinking the BB height would be, even with a 2-degree angle headset and offset bushing, it would be quite high. But I have seen examples of people who have done that, and they've even gone as far as to using imperial measurement rear shocks in the E10s and then just having more rear-wheel track. Basically trying to homage a Caneva, one could argue. But a 180 27.5 inch fork, 44mm offset, maybe a 38 if you're using a 2-degree angle headset, could pull it off. 44mm offset, 180 29er, it could probably work, but I think the BB height would make it a little bit extreme. Mulleting it could probably bring it back down, but yeah, you can get it to work. I've ran it, but there was liberties I took in relation to mine, and bear this in mind, ladies and gentlemen, like, again, it was things I had lying around. I love the bike as a free ride e-bike, it really did work well, but a 180 29er, that's where I think I'd draw the line. Hence why I've gone with a 170, just so I could retain similar geometry to how my 180 27.5 bike kind of rode. BB height's obviously increased, but you know, I've not had to do anything like change my bar roll tilt or my saddle rail position. Essentially, like, as soon as one fork came out, another fork came in, and I just swapped out with wheel sets, and then just took the magnet off one wheel, rear wheel, and put it on the other, and that was it. Like, the rotor was already installed on there because, you know, I had them lying around. But the point being is, you can use a 180, but proceed with caution, that's all I'm saying, especially if you're quite sensitive to a BB height being increased drastically. There's ways in which you can kind of bring it back down, but that's when, you know, you're definitely going to have to kind of work with either using offset bushings or an angle headset or even a mullet configuration. So hopefully that's answered that question. Next question. Have you found a way to turn the Bluetooth feature on the Bafang DZ41 for you to connect to the Bafang Go app? So it's important to recognize, ladies and gentlemen, I think I did emphasize, well, I mentioned it in the video, but technically I may not have emphasized this. The DZ41 is not a Bafang display. It's just a display which recognizes the Bafang communication protocols. Bafang are quite cunning regarding what they want in relation to what components they want communicating with their platforms nowadays. Obviously, like, you know, this leads into the whole Canvas versus UART communications, which we'll touch upon that in a second because there is a question in relation to that. But essentially, the DZ41 cannot communicate with the Bafang Go app. I should have made that clear in the last video, but essentially, because it's not a Bafang dedicated app, I would have thought that people would have assumed that certain features which are specific to Bafang, you wouldn't get in those for the DZ41, as well as subsequent other displays from the DZ line of displays. But basically, yeah, you cannot use the Bafang Go app in the for the DZ41. So apologies if people may have believed that, if you could. All right, next question. How often do you service your motors, and do you find that one motor wears out more than the other? how often do I service my motor? Okay, before I answer this question, just want to make it clear. So when I talk about servicing the motors, yes, I do mean I have to crack them open and obviously do some things to them. And I only do that with the Bafang motors, like, you know, Bros, Bosch, Yamaha, Shimano, and other motors. I've seen others crack them open, but these hands have never cracked any of those motors open. I'll leave that to those who know what they're doing in relation to that. But the Bafang, which is what got me into e-biking in the beginning, I'm familiar with their systems because within their entirety, the intricacies, they are the same. They're different in ways, but the fundamentals of their motors all revolve around the same purpose. But bear with me. Let me show you actually. So, all right. So here we have two main reduction gears. So this reduction gear, this is specific to the M600. This reduction gear is specific to the M620. So how these reduction gears work is that they drive the main, well, with me. So here's one of the motors I need to service. So here's a cracked open M600. Motors which I've had to service, it could be for weird and wonderful reasons, you know, it could be for, the M600s don't use a clutch design, they use the needle bearings. The M620 on the other hand, that uses a clutch design, so is the one, yeah, there's one in here still. So one thing which used to happen a lot in relation to my M620s is the clutch in here, because it's a three-pronged clutch design. The actual prongs themselves, the pulls, sorry, would either break or they would just disintegrate over time. And it's difficult for you to see in between the main reduction gear here, but there's teeth which would engage with the actual clutch itself. So I know the Bafang were quite like, here we go, like, don't know if you can hear that, but that's what would happen. So when you would engage the motor, so that's basically the mechanism as to how it would actually initiate and obviously give you like the ratchets as to when you backpedal and such. With the newer motors, they've used this one-way bearing clutch, needle bearing. This one unfortunately has seized, in which case I need to extract it. But essentially, like, it honestly depends on, you know, whether or not you encounter any problems. Like, you know, like, let it be known, I've said in my previous content, like, I was really going to test these motors, and I'm not going to lie, I'm going to proper put these motors for the test. Like the M620, like, there we go. The M620, like, this is a workhorse of a motor, ladies and gentlemen. Like, you know, I've never underestimated this motor. This motor is designed to proper pull out some power, and it's designed internally to be quite robust. It's just that internally there's a couple of components which can fail, but they're designed to obviously be replaced, again, the clutch being one of them. Whereas with, say, an M600, which is similar to an M500, obviously, like, there are certain internal differences. Unfortunately, I don't have a cracked open M500 to show because they're in bikes now, or an M510. But essentially, like, with the differences aside, the fundamentals still operate on the same premise. So, like, you know, that one-way needle bearing is prevalent regarding all three of them. The main primary reduction gear, that varies, that I do know. So, like, this, the M600 uses a different one for the M500 and the M510. There's other differences as well. The grease technically does also vary. I know that you can use cornhead grease in the M600, but I know that's not the best grease from what reports have yielded. But it's still optimized for the M620, I'll gladly say that. But there's just things in which one needs to kind of take on board and worry about really in relation to servicing these motors. And the one thing I will also say is that, you know, Bafang make it quite clear, you know, if you tamper with these motors, which essentially means cracking them open, even for the purposes of servicing, it does void your warranty. Well, the point being is, for servicing, it can vary. For me, who's not afraid to take tool to item in order to crack these motors open, it's nothing to me. But at the same time, if your motor needs a service, there's nothing about it. It needs to be serviced. Green Bike Kits is a good resource I've used in order to get a lot of my Bafang stuff. I'll leave a link in the description for you guys to check them out, and they are solid. Even to this day, I still use them. So, Green Bike Kits, I'm always going to be repping for you, don't worry. So, yeah, in fact, what I'll do actually is I'll start making some videos as to how to service these motors, just in case anyone's wondering. So keep a watchful eye on future content regarding that, actually, because I've done them so often, like I might as well pass on what I've learned. So yeah, that's that question. Next question. What's your opinions on the Eggrider V2? Right. I'm not too sure whether or not this video will come out before the Eggrider V2 video. If this video comes out before the Eggrider V2, I'm not going to give any spoilers away. I'll wait for that video. I have plenty of good things to say. And Eggrider, if you're watching this, huge thumbs up to yourselves for the hookup. I know that you're able to get me one at a time in which they weren't really available, but believe me, like I am impressed. And if this video has come out after the Eggrider V2 display video, my video has emphasized exactly how I feel about that display. It is a turning point for e-bike ingenuity, and I'm not going to say anymore because I've got nothing but good things to say, and I think I've said it all in that video. Next question. What is your experiences regarding the Bafang warranties policy? And yeah, okay, my experiences with the Bafang warranty policy. Right, okay, so fun fact, one of my good friends, I can't name his name, I'm not going to name his name, he knows who he is, but as far as I'm concerned, and I had to cross-reference this with another Bafang advocate, he is the only person we know of who has ever been able to successfully get warranty from Bafang. And this person lives in the UK. This threw a lot of us. This threw a lot. I've tried not to make a big thing out of this because I know people would get, well, it would give intrigue, but there'd be people who would be mad because people would start getting ideas of, well, hang on a minute, so does Bafang have warranty, yes or no? That's what I'm trying to verify. I've reached out to Bafang. Bafang have given me inconsistent information. Bearing in mind, I've gone about this in a two-pronged move, so I'm liaising with Bafang Europe and I'm liaising with proper Bafang in China. Bafang Europe have clearly stated that they offer a 2-year warranty, provided, again, going back to what I was saying, that as long as you don't crack open the motors, tamper with them, so on and so forth, you can obviously get your warranty that way. Bafang, China Bafang, which, contrary to what some people did say in relation to their whole warranty, they don't have warranty, which I ain't gonna lie, for the longest time I did believe, they have stated that they do offer a 1 year. So straight away there's inconsistencies. And I emphasize that by saying that a lot of distributors who sell Bafang e-bikes or Bafang motor e-bikes, they only cover them for a year. So as bad as it sounds, even though Bafang Europe have put content on their website and such, I'm more willing to go with the I'm gonna call them proper Bafang, I don't care. I'm more willing to go with proper Bafang because this is what distributors have been saying in relation to their some of their sales and such. Like, okay, Carbon Cycles, for example, they're only offering 1 year regarding Bafang. I'd be more willing to go by what they say because they're not far from Bafang, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just call it out for what it is. And I know some people might think, well, hang on a minute, why is there an inconsistency between Bafang China, Bafang Europe, Bafang and distributors and so on and so forth? My honest answer to that is it really shouldn't matter, because as far as I'm concerned, If the motor is clearly rocking their emblem, their logo, and it's blatantly one of their products, it shouldn't matter where you get it from, it's one of their products. It needs to have warranty. Now, whether or not that means that you'd have to go about registering it and so on and so forth, like, you know, I'll leave that to Bafang in order to fathom out. But going back to what I was saying, my experiences with Bafang warranty, being put for honest with you, I've never put forth a warranty claim through Bafang, like, ever. Like, that's the whole reason why I've cracked them open, because for the longest time, and I know I'm not alone when I say this, I've always operated on the belief that Bafang never had warranty. But recent developments from a good friend of mine has made me question that, and so I am liaising with Bafang in order to seek clarity as to if they do and what channels you're supposed to go down, because according to Bafang Europe, all they're saying is you just need to contact your representative. But it's not like Bafang are actually saying who your local representative is. Yeah, is it true that I fix Bafang motors? Yeah, it's true. This one I gotta fix. This one I've tested and everything's working. And actually, no, I say fix. To be fair, actually, fix is the wrong word. Service is the right word. I have never come across a Bafang motor which could not be fixed, or serviced, or repaired, or brought back from the brink, ladies and gentlemen. Like, there's people who have travelled good distances to put me down for me to fix their motors. There's only ever been one example I can think of where I basically parted ways with a brand new motor and took his it's not damaged, just needed to be serviced, but he underestimated how much time it would take because he thought it was going to be like a quick 20-minute thing. And I said to him, I was like, no, it's going to be a little bit longer because, you know, I'm going to have to swap out the clutch and do this and that and this and that. And so I said, okay, fine. You seem like you really just want a new motor. So here's a new M400 motor. You'll obviously need to quote me, but there you go. And I took his motor which needed to be serviced. I fixed that. That's now part of my spares. So yes, I do fix Bafang motors. I don't do it as a job or like a hobby. It's just something which I just do. And I've got the tools. I've known how to do this for quite some time, actually. Funnily enough, actually, going back to what I was saying before about even though like I'm not a trained bike mechanic, but I've been trained by bike mechanics who've taken the opportunity to obviously kind of walk me through bits and pieces. Essentially, like, me knowing how to fix Bafang motors, no one has actually taught me how to do that. It's just been stuff in which I've had to just work out on my own. Like, it's taken a while. But, you know, a long-standing user of Bafang, you start to understand how Bafang motors genuinely operate. And so when you understand the premise, the fundamentals, everything within the motors somewhat makes a little bit more sense. And so you understand what's going to fail, where grease is supposed to be applied, you know, the type of strain and the applications which the motors can properly be used for. Like, fun facts, like, not to deviate away from the question, but a lot of the connotations as to what people say they want from an EMTB motor, the M620, in my opinion, caters for that a lot more versus the M600 right here. But having said that, though, a lot of people only prioritize in terms of weight. Weight is relevant, true, but I'll gladly say I've had to service these motors a little bit more than the M620s. So, you know, lighter, fine, robust, questionable. Durable, well, they work after I fix them, so I'll leave you guys to be the judge of that one. But like I said, yes, do I fix Bafang? Yeah, I fix Bafang motors, you know, and in a lot of cases, actually, I usually do it for free. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this video up anyway. Bit of a long one, I do apologise, but of course, if you've enjoyed this video, then of course, smash that like button, and of course, comment down below. In addition, if you've got any further questions which you want me to answer, by all means, drop them down in the comment section below. And of course, until the next time, guys, take it easy, stay safe, peace for the journey, hashtag FABT, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.